Hi. So I just got off my couch from watching what turned out to be a rather uneventful qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix. I thought it was going to be more interesting. I don't know why, because we are living in the world of Max Verstappen. I don't know what I was expecting, but in between that happening and the arrival of the recently retired Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo Harajuku palette plus cherry blossom season, I was like, okay, we need to do a cherry blossom inspired makeup first. And second, maybe see how we can combine two of my interests so that I can talk to people that are not just my husband about makeup, but also talk to people that are not my husband about Formula One. Maybe, just maybe. But here's what we're gonna do. We are just going to take inspiration from cherry blossoms, which also happen to be in bloom around the track in Japan. So while watching racing this weekend, it's been like a whole bunch of shots of the cherry blossoms around, and it's just beautiful. I've seen cherry blossoms before in Seattle and when we lived in Jeju in South Korea. So it's always something that I just absolutely love to see. I think it's just a magical spectacle of nature. They never they never lose their beauty. They're always just so cool to see. So today we are going to use the Tokyo Harajuku palette to do a little bit of a cherry blossom inspired makeup and talk a little bit about the Japanese Grand Prix and why I think it's such a cool race and great introductory point. If you have never watched a Formula One Grand Prix and you really want to watch a good one, Japan is a great one to watch. If you think that this is going to be fun or at least interesting, I hope that you'll subscribe. If you like this video and think that this mixed perspective of like Formula One for the makeup girlies, if you may, is maybe something that other people could check out and find helpful, interesting, or entertaining, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Let's get going with the makeup. So in one way, this video is also a bit of a celebration of the retirement of the Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo Harajuku palette. This palette is no longer available. It's been retired from the lineup at Nomad, and I got it during the retirement sale. This is a colorful and creative kawaii eyeshadow formulated with extra fine pigments from Vivid Color Payoff, infused with camellia oil to help make skin soft and silky smooth. 5 mattes, 5 satins, and 5 unique multichromes inspired by the wild creativity of the trendy Tokyo youth. And here is the palette. This is what it looks like. Do you understand why I'm so like, oh yes, this is like a dream spring palette? I mean, this could have also been really fun for like Easter looks, right? Like kind of like Easter bunny, Easter eggs kind of looks. And of course, just like spring makeup. But I did use it this week. I used a couple of the shades to just kind of see what the pinks looked like and kind of trial the look that I was going to do today. And I am very, very happy with the quality, but we'll kind of play around a little bit with some of these options to give you at least 2 looks with this palette inspired by kind of the hues that you get when cherry blossoms are in bloom. Face and brows have already been done. Nothing to see here as far as like new products or anything like that. Everything that can be linked will be linked in the description box below. Remember that some of my links are affiliate links, and if you purchase through them, I may earn a small commission. So they will be clearly marked as usual. The one thing that is not going to be linked in the description box is the Hitotifi concealer, which I did use today, but it is a lab access release. So that may or may not be available. If it is available, I'll link it, but if not, unfortunately, it's just I got my hands early on it for testing purposes. Usually, the Japanese Grand Prix happens in October, around October. So obviously, no cherry blossoms. But this year, to keep races kind of close together, it was moved to April. So I had also been looking at some people saying that cherry blossoms had been a little bit late, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna like match. And they did. So I've been thinking a lot about cherry blossoms in the last couple of days. I always think about cherry blossoms in the spring after living in Seattle for grad school. the University of Washington has like its whole quad is like lined with cherry blossoms, and it's just spectacular. I'll make sure to pop a picture here so that you can see. It might not be my picture because those are like deep in a hard drive, and I'm not sure that I can find them at the moment. But then also when we lived in Jeju, which is the southernmost island of South Korea, for 2 years. And there are multiple parts of the island of Jeju that also have cherry blossoms. So it's always a big deal. Like people go in droves to take pictures and see them. And of course, like the falling of the petals it's just magical. It is magical. So it's been really cool to see kind of those two things this weekend as I've been watching some racing. So then, you know, this palette came in the mail and I was like, okay, we need to do some so-called cherry blossom makeup. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of like using kind of like those trendy names from TikTok and stuff, but I do think that like color wise, I feel like, you know, using the moniker is to be expected. So on one eye, I'm going to basically repeat a look that I did earlier this week with 3 of these shades. So I used the shade Hanami, I used the shade Gyaru, and I used the shade Otaku, which is a multi-chrome. And I used the shade Zaku Saku in the inner corner highlight. So I'm gonna do that look first. I did have to pull from other shades for an inner corner highlight. This is quite light right now. I did pick up too much of this. I think I picked up too much. I will say one thing that I do appreciate from this palette is that for medium tan skin tones like mine, the shades don't really pull chalky, which is important, I think. So basically what I'm doing here is just mixing Hanami, which is like a soft peach, and Gyaru, which is a soft pink, to make that very pale pink that you get from cherry blossoms, to turn it into my transition / base shade. And I'm doing all of that with my Refer 15 brush. I definitely picked up too much pigment, but the other thing that you should know is that this is like color payoff without eyeshadow primer. I've been testing this palette without eyeshadow primer just to see what the color payoff is like. From my test this week, I'm very happy with color payoff. I'm very happy with pigmentation. I'm very happy with how the pastels interact with my skin tone. Like it doesn't look chalky. I'm gonna keep adding some Gyaru. I am very sad that the little cat pan embossing is gonna go away the more I use this palette because it's so adorable. It is so adorable. But anyways, going back to the Japanese Grand Prix. So the Japanese Grand Prix is one of those races that like nobody hates, which is, you know, especially now with the growth of Formula One and how polarizing it has become over the last, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. I feel like there's a lot of criticism about certain tracks and so on. I am one of those people that criticizes some tracks for sure. There are definitely tracks that I don't like. I just wanted to show you the brush so that you can see what the color looks like, the pigment of those 2 shades together, this one and this one, so that you can see that it's like a very soft pink. And then in my eye, on my eye, it translates as like a very powdery ballerina pink. Anyways, Japan is one of those races that nobody hates. Everybody kind of sees, and I think that they are right, the Suzuka circuit, which is where the race is held, as, first of all, it's a very challenging track. You have to be good. If you are good in Japan, you are good. Like, it's not a track where like you can kind of have a fluke and like you're terrible everywhere else, but you're good at Suzuka. I don't think that happens. And for the record, like I've been following Formula One for like the majority of my life, for better part of the last 30 years. And like the pattern holds. If you are good at Suzuka, you actually are good. Like it's not a track where you can shoot from the hip. For the sake of bringing in some darker shades, so that I can give some depth to my crease, I will be pulling from the Natasha Denona Love palette, because this does have some deeper pinks that can give me just a little bit of depth, and I'm gonna be using the shade Soul. So because of the level of skill that is required at Suzuka, it's a track that everybody like respects and everybody looks forward to. the drivers themselves look forward to it and they wanna be good at it. So it's always really exciting to watch because like it's a track where the drivers are excited to be there, especially now. Like there are certain tracks that have been a little bit more controversial that some people don't really see, especially some drivers, they don't really see them as like being that good, or maybe they are upset at like the rise of street circuits and that kind of thing. That's the other thing about Suzuka, is that it's a purpose-built track. So since it is only used for racing and it's built with racing and, you know, showcasing racing skills in mind, it hits different. Let's put it that way. It hits different. So I think that drivers really appreciate it for that reason. Teams appreciate it for that reason, because strategy does become really important, especially because weather conditions in Suzuka can be quite tricky. In this time of the year, like I don't expect any of those like crazy torrential rains that you see sometimes at Suzuka that sometimes have had really, really unfortunate outcomes. But I mean, there were a few drizzles during practice that kind of messed people up a little bit because they didn't know what to do with their tires. But I don't expect that tomorrow for the Grand Prix. The forecast doesn't really say that anything like is gonna happen. Like they don't expect rain, which is like, okay, but you know, it can be kind of unpredictable at times. So because of that, you also have to take into account that the weather conditions can be unpredictable, and that's gonna play into your strategy. If you wanna see like an extreme example of that, the 1974 race, which was the title decider between James Hunt and Niki Lauda and is brilliantly portrayed in the movie Rush, is a great example of like, you know, what happens when Suzuka gets scary because of the rain. If you have never seen that movie, I certainly recommend it, even if you're not a Formula One fan. It's just a good movie, honestly. The acting is quite good, and when you know the characters, like you appreciate the acting even more. Anyways, so I mean, really, if you wanted to go all matte on a look like this, you could leave it like that. And then in that case, what I would do would maybe be adding like the shade Lolita as an inner corner highlight and kind of finish with the pinks that way. If you wanted to go all matte, you could do that. And again, the thing is that with these shades, that even when, there it is, even though they look really, really pigmented on the pan, see, they translate on the eyes not super crazy. Like they are, in my opinion, like really manageable on the eye. If you wanted to go not too sparkly, this is where I would leave the look. I think I need to maybe clean a little bit here. I should be using a little bit of concealer just to kind of clean that part a little bit. I just want to make sure that it doesn't look too dusty. Okay, I think it looks okay. So if you wanted to leave the look all matte, I would leave it like that. I think it looks good. And you do get, you know, the primarily very soft pink hues of cherry blossoms. I'm just gonna use my same crease brush here just to kind of blend these lines a little bit so that it doesn't look too funky. So I would leave it like that. But what I did this past week was use this shade, Otaku, which is a multi-chrome. Looks mostly, I feel, teal on the screen, but on me, like when I put it on, and of course when you lay it on this very pink base, it's going to mostly pick up pink, I think. You're still seeing it kind of blue-green on the screen, but in the finger, it's mostly pink. But again, you're keeping it kind of like on the soft hues of cherry blossoms, so I appreciate that. To finish up, I'm going to just add a little bit of eyeliner. We're gonna do a little bit more here, and I'm gonna add one of the Kaleidos multi-chrome eyeliners just to add like a little bit of extra pink. I'm just trying to decide which one because they do have quite a few other hues that come out of them. So these are the two that I'm thinking about. Actually, they look quite similar on the screen right now. See, on the screen, both of these pull pink, but when I was swatching them, they both pulled green. There it is, there's the green. So I think I'm gonna do this one, the shade Tourmaline. I think I'm gonna do this one. on the lower lash line. Yeah, pull in pink. Oops. So I don't know that the race itself tomorrow is going to be like anything outside of what's expected. I actually think that it's very likely that it's just going to be a Red Bull 1-2, and I don't know, maybe one of the McLarens at the other step of the podium. I don't expect much else happening because everybody else, like their pace seems kind of unpredictable. The Ferraris are like not super confident in their car. The Mercedes are not consistently on pace either. So I don't know that we can count on a Mercedes on the podium at all. I think that the McLarens are probably in the best position to do that, to snag that third place. Or, you know, if they get super lucky, snag the second step of the podium and split the Red Bulls, especially if Checo like doesn't hold his act together. Although he seems to be doing pretty well this weekend, so I think that it should be a Red Bull 1-2, which is a little bit disappointing because as a Ferrari fan, I would have loved to see a Ferrari on the podium, because if there is one of them in the podium, I think that they had a pretty good chance of leading the title, leading the championship, which would have been really fun. But I don't know, based on what we saw today in qualifying, I really don't know that that's going to happen. I just swatched the rest of that multi-chrome in my hand so that I can show you that it can really be very sheared out to just get a wash of pink on the eye. And upon further consideration, I think that that's mostly what we're going to do on the other eye. We're just going to do a little bit of a sheer wash with the multi-chrome mostly by itself. But I am going to give it a little bit of a base just to see what happens. I'm going to use Lolita, which is going to be kind of a hot pink base, but I'm going to try to sheer it out as much as I can. Yeah, it shears out really well. I also want you to like notice that from that multi-chrome, there's like zero fallout. This may not have been the best brush for this. Refer 01. No, this is not the best brush for this one. I think that these shadows behave better if the brush is kind of fluffy. But this one is a satin shade, so I also wanted to get a brush that would kind of pick it up, not in a very dusty way, if that makes any sense. Again, if you want a soft wash of color, you can just do this. Please remember that my eyelids are almost 39 and there's going to be creasing, which is why in other circumstances you would use eyeshadow primer. But that could be it. You could just do that, add some eyeliner. In this case, I would go either with a dark brown or a black, or even a navy blue if I wanted, and call it a day. If you just wanted that, which is very much kind of in the vein of how K-Beauty, J-Beauty approach eyeshadows. So if you were in Japan, for example, you'd be very much like being in step with the cultural makeup trends by just doing a soft wash of color. It's the reason why a lot of shades from brands from those areas are not as pigmented, is because like mostly East Asians approach makeup as like mostly a soft wash of color, although you do get, you know, more intense stuff done from time to time for very specific things. So I'm just gonna pick my hair up and push it back. So that's one way that you could go if you wanted, but again, I do wanna lay that multi-chrome, but I don't know. I wanna see what happens if I put down another multi-chrome. That is not gonna be as soft pink, but I just wanna see what happens. These I don't think have as many different hues. It says that they're multi-chromes on the box, but I'm actually not sure that they are. But I'm gonna pick this bottom shade, Takeshita Dori. I'm sorry, I'm sure that I'm mispronouncing that. It looks very intense in the pan, but it can be sheared out pretty well. So I think I'm gonna go with that one. Hold on, let me just make sure that I'm looking at the right shade. Yes, I am. Okay. Should I try to put that down with a brush? No, I should not. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Surprisingly, like it looks super purple in the pan, but in my eyes, it is pulling soft pink. It does have like an element of lilac, but not too terribly much. Not too terribly much. And I'm gonna do the most, and ooh, hold on. Sorry, I got my hand on the shade Moshi Moshi. I'm gonna swatch it just to see what it looks like, because I think this green on top, I think it could be a fun topper, but I think it loses the cherry blossom vibes if I do that. So let's not. We wanna keep it cherry blossomy. Let's see. Should I play with anything else? I don't know. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm gonna leave it like that. Do I not have any eyeliner? This needs eyeliner, oh my God. Okay, I do have eyeliner, thank God. Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal in Cacao. Cocoa, not cacao, cocoa. You don't need to put on eyeliner, of course, but. And of course, staying on theme, the cherry blossom tree itself, like it's pretty dark brown, so not bad. I'm just using the smudgy thingy at the bottom of the eyeliner pencil. Cleaning the side. And just lining a tiny bit on top. Tomorrow, because of the time of the race too, is also one of those days where I always have the challenge of staying off social media because I can't watch it live. The race is at 8 in the morning and I have to be at work at 9, so I can't watch it in real time. So we're just gonna like record it with our DVR. Stay off of social media and watch it in the afternoon. I'm gonna have to stay off of YouTube as well to make sure that I don't see any spoilers, because again, it's usually a race that is eventful, either because the weather throws people off and messes with people's strategy, or because someone messes up and crashes. Someone already crashed in practice 1, which is not ideal for his future. That was Logan Sargent. He was a rookie last year. Not living his best life exactly. So to finish here, we're gonna add an inner corner highlight here, and we're gonna add the shade Zaku Zaku, which I have used already. I just wanna make sure that I'm not messing with my fingers. Zaku Zaku is a multi-chrome. With the rest of these pinks, it pulls pretty pink, even though it is a bright yellow on the pan. So if I were going to the Japanese Grand Prix, especially if I were going at this time of the year, I would wear one of these 2 looks. So like I would probably do one look on Saturday and one look on Sunday, for example. And like this is what my eyes would look like for the Grand Prix, because I love a theme. And in this case, I just feel like the cherry blossom theme is like, okay, this is like handed to me in a silver platter, come on. And you know, having this palette is just like, these are just really fun pinks to play with. I'm a little thrown off by the lack of crease definition there. I wasn't going to, but I am going to add a crease shade. I'm gonna go with Intense from the Natasha Denona Love palette. just for a little bit. Oh yeah, game changer. With, I don't know, with hooded eyes, because I do think that I have slightly hooded eyes, I just think that a little bit of depth in the crease, I just find it helpful, you know? I just think it's helpful. And again, when your eyes are hidden behind glasses all the time, you want your eyes to be like as visible as possible and pop. There you go. Ah, that's much better. Much better with a crease shade there. So here's one, and here's the other. So I don't think that these looks are exactly the same. I do see a significant difference. And of course, one has eyeliner, one doesn't. One has a less pink shade than the other, or well, the multichrome is pulling on a different direction that is not just pink. So, you know, it is different to an extent, but it does remind me in some ways of like those soft pink hues that you get when a whole bunch of cherry blossoms are in bloom. We're almost done here. I'm gonna use two different cream blushes, again, for the sake of just showing you options. When I did this look this week, I used, these are so hard to open, my goodness. I used Happy Hour from Tower 28, so I'm gonna use that on that side as well. And you might be thinking, well, but aren't you like on the track all day when you go to a Grand Prix? How's your cream blush gonna hold? Well, I would say like use a cream blush formula like this one, like Tower 28, that is a little bit stiffer so that you can get longevity. Because let's be honest, like when you are in a track, like you're not thinking about reapplying your makeup all the time. At least I'm not, because I'm going for the actual racing. So I'm on my seat as long as there are cars on track. But I would definitely go, like if I were going to the Japanese Grand Prix, this is definitely how I would go about it. I would go rather pink. And then on the other side, I'm gonna use Humble from the LYS Higher Standard cream blushes. Why are all of these so hard to open, at least today? I don't know what's wrong with me. Both of these formulas are fairly stiff. So these two shades are really not that dissimilar. But you do get that bright pop of pink. LYS is definitely stiffer than Tower 28, in my opinion. But I think that Tower 28, believe it or not, has more elegant longevity. More elegant longevity. Going back to Formula One. So if you feel like, well, I mean, the season started, I can't watch because I've missed a whole bunch of it. It doesn't matter. Like, this is only the 4th race. There are still like 20 freaking races to go. So it doesn't matter if you're catching on right now. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Watch the Grand Prix, enjoy it. Again, Japan is a great track to watch good racing. It's one of those places where, like, even if the race is quote unquote boring, you're still gonna see a good race, which is the good thing about it, because it's a track that requires a lot of finesse from the drivers. You have to be on it to put in a solid lap in Japan. You can't count on like, oh, I'm gonna get lucky. No. You have to be like switched on with your car. Your strategy has to be on point. Your driving has to be on point. Corners are unforgiving. The track itself can be quite unforgiving if you make a mistake. So if you really want to see like the best level of skill in Formula One, Japan is a great track to do that. So if you're just getting into the sport, but you don't want to watch all the races and you don't know which races are going to be good, Japan is almost a sure shot of it's gonna be good, even if it's boring. Because even if it's boring and Max Verstappen wins by 40 seconds, he's still gonna put in pretty impressive laps, and that's just fun to watch, okay? We're gonna finish the look with a gloss or a lip oil. I'm actually not sure. So I just pulled a bunch of options from my own collection to see like what would I go with. When I've been to Grand Prix, I tend to go with a lip oil because in between like eating and drinking and just spending long hours there, you want your lips to be comfortable, and lip oil requires less precise application than a lip gloss. So I think I would go with a lip oil instead. But here are like the glosses and the oils that I was thinking about for today for the most part. 2 of the e.l.f. Glow Reviver lip oils and 2 of the Lawless Forget the Filler lip glosses. Love both. I had to keep myself from buying more Lawless glosses at the Sephora sale because I was like, okay, look, girl, you gotta finish some of the stuff that you have. Wait, just wait. I will buy George again before the end of the year because I need to have George close to me. Lawless George, that is. So this is Rose Envy Pink Quartz from e.l.f. Glow Reviver Lip Oils, and then Velvet and Nudie from Lawless. I think I'm gonna go with Rose Envy from e.l.f. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Rose Envy because it does have a little bit of pigment on me, but it's a lip oil and it's really comfortable. If you wanted to get more pigmentation out of this, then I would say add a lip gloss. Add a lip liner. Finish up with setting spray, Benefit the Professional. And this is the completed look. This is it. This is my take on cherry blossom inspired makeup. Easy, mostly pink based, with some soft sparkles, with some soft hues, using primarily the Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo Harajuku palette, but any pastel palette would do in my opinion. And then for reinforcements, some of the deeper shades in the Natasha Denona Love palette. But again, any pink palette would do. So there's option 1. And there's option 2. Am I gonna be wearing something like this tomorrow for like the Grand Prix? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I might wear something simpler tomorrow because again, I'm gonna be at work, so I'm not gonna be like watching the Grand Prix live, so it's gonna be less exciting. It's gonna be less exciting, although I'm gonna stay in the dark and not look at spoilers and that sort of thing. But anyways, it's always exciting to have the Japanese Grand Prix coming around. The drivers love to be there. It's a track that requires a lot of skill. The fans are amazing. They are super creative. They are cheering for everybody. I think that this year also, because there is a Japanese driver and a Japanese team principal on the grid, I think that the Japanese fans are like extra excited. For reference, if you're not familiar, the Japanese driver is Yuki Tsunoda, who drives for RB, and the team principal is Ayako Matsu, who is the team principal for Haas. So Japan has some skin in the game, which they hadn't had in previous years. Well, I mean, this is Yuki's 4th season in F1. This is Komatsu's 1st season as a team principal, although he's been a race engineer for a really long time. But there's definitely really good ambience. There's always good ambience in Japan because the Japanese fans come out in full force and full regalia. It's super fun to see the banners and the creative takes on like fan support. Like I saw 2 girls like who are Sainz fans wearing like red and yellow kimonos. It was adorable. It's adorable. People do like DRS hats. Like it's so much fun. It's definitely a race that inspires you to have fun, which is kind of where the whole like matching of like, oh, it's a Japan inspired palette, cherry blossoms. Let's maybe see what happens if I talk about Formula One while doing my makeup. Not only because of like all of those things coming together, but also I've been a fan for a really long time, but I was a fan by myself for a really long time. And I think that that could also be the case for other women. 40% of Formula One fans are women, according to the data. But I know that the internet can be a rather hostile place sometimes for A, new fans, and B, female fans. So like, Hi, I've been a fan for a really long time. So if you want to talk to someone that is not scary, you can talk to me. Basically, that's kind of the spirit behind this video. Just having a little bit of fun and combining two of my hobbies, my interests, my passions in a video. So if you like the makeup look, like the F1 talk, or just simply like me talking, or the video quality got better, thank you for the person that left feedback about the video quality, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. And I hope to see you again in another one. If you want to make sure that you don't miss it, please consider subscribing. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you on my next one. Bye-bye.